Mark, just behind you is the most special winners enclosure in South Africa. It emulates the winners enclosure at the Investec Derby in Epsom. And on Saturday, one horse is going to walk into that winners enclosure. I'm going to start by going straight for the jugular. Who is that horse going to be?
The market has got it right. It's around about 80% that one of the top three will end up in the winner's circle, either Legal Eagle or Marineresco or Whiskey Baron. I do think the market is accurate in this sense. There's bound to be a lurker. Some spook will get into the money, so that makes it attractive for exotic players. But the betting at the top is tight, and I think it's an efficient market. Legal Eagle is the champion. 2,000 metres, I think an easy 2,000 here at Kenilworth, no worries with that. He's proven himself repeatedly at the highest level, and also the compressed weight scale will definitely favour him. He's enjoyed a marvellous prep. He's got a top man in Sean Terry, whose record in Grade 1 races is impeccable. He has paired two towering speed figures, though, in the Greenpoint Stakes and the Queen's Plate. So there's always a little bit of a question mark. When older horses pair two big efforts, they sometimes regress a little bit. But it's very, very hard to find fault with his overall record. It withstands scrutiny. Marineresco, what impresses me most about him, Andrew, is his turn of foot. Some of the sectionals that he produced up in KZN were absolutely extraordinary. And it was a very game try in the Greenpoint Stakes when he made up a lot of ground and was only half a length short of Legal Eagle. A bit flat in the Queen's Plate. He didn't look that at ease even going down to the start. So maybe it just wasn't really his day. We're dealing with flesh and blood creatures. But I think off a solid pace, if he can be positioned slightly better to launch that attack, then he's going to be a serious runner. I just love the way he stretches out, he puts his ears back, and when he turns on the afterburners, he's formidable. So he would probably be the second choice. The third one, Andrew, would be Whiskey Baron, who has been transformed since gelding. He ran half a length off Marineresco during the winter series.
Twice. On
2 occasions, that's it. But he was a heavy horse, and the gelding has just made all the difference. He's been very, very impressive, beating up lesser foes, it must be said. What has really caught my eye about him is his turn of foot, which is now much better than what it used to be. He really can quicken up like a proper horse. So we don't really know quite how good he is. Brett Crawford is an expert trainer. He's won the Met a couple of times before, and he remarked that Whiskey Baron reminds him somewhat of Angus. Whiskey Baron will have to improve a bit on his official rating, but he may yet have that in him.
Well, you know, when you look at horses like Pocket Power and Illustrador, for example, the two classic exponents of horses that would never have been what they turned out to be had they not been gelded, Whiskey Baron has shown himself almost equal to the task as a colt. Surely, with Brett Crawford knowing the strength of Captain America, he must know that he's sitting on a bomb.
Yeah, sure. And Whiskey Baron's work this morning was eye-catching. A number of pundits were saying, "Oh, yeah, like a machine." Great action, and he's an imposing individual. He's got a very composed temperament as well. So he's got much in his favour. Drawn right next to Legal Eagle, so there'll be some strategic manoeuvrings in the early part of the race.
Well, I think I asked Robert Bloomberg about the draw, and for the first time ever, Marineresco pulls a draw, which they've been dying to do, and it's in the race that matters most.
Yeah, Candice Bass-Robinson was chatting to me a while back. They just need a decent draw so that they can position Marineresco without him exhausting energy early on. I'm sure they'll still use hold-up tactics, but at least to secure position, it's not going to cost him much in terms of energy. That's the idea.
Quite often you hear top trainers saying, you know, that horse shouldn't be in the race, he'll get in the way. And to a large extent, we've seen some of the horses that are no-hopers as far as the betting is concerned draw badly, which is not a bad thing for the race.
Yeah, there's one lurker, one of the biggest priced horses in the field, and it's got the worst draw, Cape Speed. He's interesting because he races with blinkers for the first time, which he clearly enjoyed in the gallop. He concentrated better, his focus was there, and on back form, he's the sort of horse that can outrun his odds and maybe sneak into the money and make trifectas and quartets pay. So he's one that most people will probably be kicking into touch. Yeah, he had a very good KZN season on just closing sectionals here in some of his runs in Cape Town. He's proved that he can finish with verve. And I think last time there was an excuse, he may have jarred his knee somewhat, so that run doesn't look too good on paper. But if the blinkers improve him, then at a huge price, then Cape Speed is the sort that might be able to totter into the money.
Pierce Stratham has elected to ride It's My Turn. He's got a staggering record in the Lormorans Queen's Plate, having won it 6 times. He's also won the Met a good few times. He's always been of the opinion that a horse that wins the Derby the year before, the Investec Derby, is the horse to follow for the forthcoming Met, which happens to be sponsored by Sun for the first time.
Yeah, It's My Turn is interesting. He did really well during the KZN season. He's had a couple of prep runs, which, if you take it at face value, suggests he's going to have a hard time to mix it with the top horses. But if you go back to that Derby run, he had Marinaresco and Brazuca well beaten. I think they were 2-3 lengths off him at levels. And he's been primed specifically for this race by the Snaiths. And he's a runner because he's versatile. He can go handy or he can come off them, which is always an advantage. People always try and anticipate the pace, and sometimes they get it completely wrong. And the jockeys have to make split-second instinctive decisions as to what's happening. So you've got a world-class rider, and you've got a horse that is tractable and adaptable, and it can turn it on. It's got a nice turn of foot. So it may be a bit close at the weights to the top ones. So I'm not convinced that he can actually win it, but he's a very strong place candidate.
Now, the interviewer should never really impose his thoughts on the interview, but I'm going to throw a horse into the equation that is a dual Grade 1 winner. They were both 2 million rand races, the Daily News 2000 and the Classic. A horse that is drawn in pole position with Waishong Mawing and the champion trainer at 40 to 1.
French Navy, as you say, he's proven at this level. He's got a nice finishing burst, and he's obviously been aimed at this race. Champion trainer, he does have a lot in his favour, and he's a nice wild card to have. That's what Sean Terry mentioned. He was by no means unhappy with the Queen's Plate prep. I think this easy Kenilworth 2000 will suit him nicely. It just remains to be seen if he's still got that spark. And having said that, he's run some grand races at Greyville. He probably shouldn't be 40 to 1. That is an overlay. I think maybe to include him in trifecta players, or even underneath in an exacta, could be prudent, because he is proven at the class level.
I've heard suggestions that they're going to be very different tactics with Macduff. I'm going to bring him and the Conglomerate into the same equation. We know the Conglomerate is fully exposed. He's the winner of the most heritage-filled race. He's a top horse. But he's got it all to do when you look at merit rating.
Yeah, look, the Conglomerate is a very difficult ride. He's an erratic performer. Most of his best efforts have been up country. I think he will be hard-pressed in the terms of this race. But he is a good horse. So
and Frankie Dettori will give him every chance.
Yeah, some of Frankie's magic. He's just a brilliant natural horseman. His timing, judgment, everything, his experience proven around the world. So I'd be surprised if he won, but I think it would be foolish to discount his chances of getting into the fray. Macduff, quite right, Joey Ramson has mentioned to me that they've been forced to try a variety of tactics because of awkward draws in the past. and they're going to try and do things differently again this time, but most likely ride Macduff with a view to trying to get into the places. Would be a startling upset were he to actually win it.
Okay, let's touch very briefly on the filly. Robert's got some very valid points. Her work was exceptional today, but is she good enough to beat the colts given the weights?
Well, the Snaiths have described her as sensational. She's very, very good. This is going to be her sternest test. Look, she was only beaten 2.5 lengths in the July when things didn't really work out for her. So she's entitled to make big improvements. She's also got a nice turn of foot. She won a slow run conditions race here where she, I think she ran the last 422 and change, so she can quicken up. And then she won the Paddock Stakes, also producing a nice burst, but she's hung a little bit. She was really life and death to get up and win it, which makes me think that she probably won't be quite good enough, particularly the way the weights are framed. But it's often an error to discount proven winners. They sometimes improve more than you think they're entitled to. So she wouldn't be amongst my top tier of horses in a pick six play. I'd probably just go with the top 3 in the betting, but it might be an idea just to include her on a few backup tickets in case she truly vindicates that assessment that she is sensational.
Okay, let's touch very briefly on Mac Delago. He's a Grade 1 winner. Hassan Adams has won this race with Past Master from a deep draw. He drew 14 this year. He travels. He's a good horse, but is he good enough to win this year's Sun Met?
I don't think so. I think his placed effort in the July was probably the optimal performance for Mac Delago. Another with a place chance. As you say, he's a good traveller. Wire Mooring's very happy with the way he's come through his prep, sorted out some of the issues after the Summer Cup, and I think he'll run to his optimal performance level. But I think he's a very unlikely winner.
Baritone, his work was very good this morning, but has he got the class?
Tough task at the weights, probably doesn't have the class. He's just below Grade 1 level, but he does have a powerful turn of foot. He's got a telling burst. Most improbable, but who knows? He might sneak into the back of quartets, but a very, very unlikely winner.
There's absolutely no doubt that Legal Eagle has got Captain America's number in spades. He slammed him in Joburg, which you can understand with the altitude, but he's also got him well held in the Cape, although Captain America just seems to be getting better and better, and his run in the Lomron's Queen's Plate was most encouraging.
Yeah, Brett Crawford was saying it's just a pleasure to train. He's an honest horse, he's an imposing galloper. And his style of running is very effective, Andrew, because he uses his long stride to go faster than people realize. Probably needs to boost his finishing effort a bit. And as you mentioned, Legal Eagle does appear to have his number. But horses' performances they improve and they regress. So to make up a couple of lengths is not an insurmountable task in any horse race. He's actually quite well rated. If you look at the handicap scale, he ran second, I think, to Legislate in the Derby,
Yeah.
and he's been placed before in the Met. Very, very game sort. Again, one of those marginal horses. Probably asking a bit much to expect him to win, but a seriously live place contender.
Well, I think that leaves me no choice but to just try and draw some kind of analogy between the crop of 3-year-olds that we found ourselves with this year, with a sole representative being Gold Standard, who's clearly looking for 10 furlongs. His prep looks like it's gone very, very well, even though he didn't gallop today. There's been very good justification for that. But what's Mark van Dierwinter's speed rating tell us about Gold Standard's ability to handle the top players?
Well, on my scale, Gold Standard got 110. That's not comparable to official merit ratings, but on my speed figure scale, and the best horses in the field, like Marinaresco and Legal Eagle, have scored around 115, 116. And a lot of the solid Grade 1 campaigners, such as French Navy and Captain America, have also scored 110. So it means that Goldstand is very much alive and plausible runner. Chatted with Glenn Cotson, very interesting take on things. He says that Bold Rex is probably 6 or 7 lengths inferior to the older horses, using the Queen's Plate run as a form line. And he argues that Gold Standard is substantially superior to Bold Rex. So based on that, he thought it was worth having a crack carrying 52. Gold Standard is a very, very good horse. He's got a stout female line, the same family as Olympic Jewel, so he'll relish this longer route. He's got a powerful turn of foot. Richard Fourie thinks the world of him. It will be fascinating to see how he shapes up against the older horses. He has been set quite a tough assignment, must be said, but he is a high-class youngster, and I think he'll prove very competitive.
A final runner that we haven't touched on is a horse called Mambo Mine, pretty much exposed and has it all to do.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Look, he did run on top of some of the better 3-year-olds during the winter season in KZN. Was maybe a bit stiff not to place in the July. I think he got taken out at a crucial stage, but they all finished on top of one another there. It was the nature of the tight gravel track. He's also endured a few mishaps since then. But I think Dean Caname is happier with his most recent progress. And they're going to take their chances. But yeah, it's unlikely to see him troubling the scorer unless he wakes up big time.
As far as the day itself is concerned, I mean, it's champagne racing of the highest GH mum barometer that money can buy. It's just mind-boggling, the money, the quality, and the fare on the day.
Yeah, a great slogan, celebrate and dare and win. It should be tremendous fun. Brilliant racing. There's some tough puzzles for horse players to resolve. But yeah, it's a showpiece. Big stakes on offer. There'll be huge pools as well to tempt the exotic bettors. And yeah, no, it's a special day for the real fanatics to relish.